Oh, let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be starting this 1989 Mustang GT for the first time in over 10 years. So let's get into today's video. Alright guys, so a little backstory on this Mustang GT. It's been sitting in one of my friend's yard for over 10 years. It was parked running. It had an issue with the starter solenoid, so we got to change that. And then it also had an issue with the clutch. The clutch will work while it's cool, and when the car warms up, the clutch will start doing a bunch of wonky stuff. So it most likely needs a clutch disc and a pressure plate. That'll be the easier fix, direct bolt on, all that type of stuff. So there's no diagnostic with that. But for a vehicle that's been sitting for 10 years, what I need to do is disconnect those fuel lines and cycle the key and let the tank drain out like into a bucket, and probably just get rid of all that old fuel. And it only has about a quarter tank in it, but it's going to be good to get rid of that. Just making sure that there's no moisture buildup or anything like that. You'll have to check to make sure the fuel pump is actually still working as well. Other than that, he told me that he overfilled the oil to try to counteract the moisture buildup that would have happened for sitting for a long time. So we're gonna have to drain the oil, and if the oil is good, then I'll just put the right amount of oil back into it, and we should be able to use that at least for a first startup, or just to run it, make sure it has oil pressure, make sure it isn't knocking, that type of stuff. This car hasn't been touched for a very long time, but it was parked running, so we just need to make sure that no garbage fuel gets to the engine, and we should be good. We need to make sure that the right amount of oil is in it, so we don't just send oil everywhere in the damn motor and don't need it. So we're going to drain the oil. We are going to put the right amount back in if the oil looks clean. If it doesn't look clean, then we'll go get some fresh oil. Other than that, we need to make sure cycle that fuel pump. If it doesn't come on, then we're going to have to drop the tank, which is more work, but no biggie. Drop the tank, make sure a proper fuel pump is in it, make sure power's getting to it, all that good stuff, and then we go from there. Best case scenario, we drain the oil, put the right amount in, we clean the tank by cycling all the fuel out of it and putting about a fresh 25 to 30 bucks in it, and cross our fingers and crank this thing up. Oh, totally forgetting, we're gonna take off the air intake tube just to make sure that there's nothing blocking the way. Maybe something might have built a nest in there, you never know. So we're gonna open up the intake, make sure nothing's wrong there, and then we're gonna try to crank this thing up for the first time in over 10 years. So we got a good amount of work ahead of us, so let's get into it. Alrighty, so we did a lot of work on this thing just now. We got the fuel lines disconnected from the rail itself, and we were trying to flush the tank out, but I'm actually gonna have to drop that because I think the pump went bad. We changed the starter solenoid, So we have brand new starter solenoid, the key's working, but the starter has an issue. I have two starters right over here. And I believe this is the year correct starter, and then this is like the newer year starters. You can tell because the older ones don't have as many terminals, it just has a positive because these cars have starter relays on them. These ones have the relay built in right here. I believe I should be able to get away with using either, any which one pretty much, but I'm gonna go with the period correct one if it works. Then, like I said, we have to actually drop the tank and change the fuel pump because that's where the issue is. I thought the fuel pump wasn't getting any power, but the relay is right under the seat, and I held the relay in my hand and then I cycled the key on and off and it actually was clicking in my hand. So I'm pretty sure that the fuel pump in the tank is short. I need to get the back of the vehicle up and drop the tank. Change the pump, change the starter, and then we should be good to put some fresh fuel in it, cycle it, and hopefully get this thing started for the first time in over 10 years. We also drained the oil and put the right amount of oil in this bad boy. We did not change the oil filter, but we're going to. I just want to hear this thing crank up and see if it builds any pressure. Coolant is very good. Surprising for over 10 years the thing sat up, but no coolant missing with the oil, and everything is where it's supposed to be. All right guys, it is the very next day and I'm working on the Fox yet again. I got mega paranoid about running the oil filter and the fuel filter that came in the car, so I went and got a fuel filter for it, and I also got an oil filter for it. So we're gonna pop those on before trying to crank it, but we've already run into our first issue of the day, which I knew I was gonna run into a lot of issues trying to bring a car back to life that's just been sitting for over 10 years. And let me show you guys exactly what that is. Completely ignore this tank. I was trying to see if an SN95 tank would have worked at a Fox, and it's actually pretty different. The fuel pump in the SN95 is there, the fuel pump in the Fox is here. So alrighty, this is the issue now. The fuel pump assembly is completely rusted and busted to hell, and I know I can clean this up and get this back pretty good, but inside the tank is the massive issue. And I know you guys might not be able to see it well, but there is so much rust in this bad boy that it's really not worth saving. There's way too much rust on the inside, so even if I put in a fresh pump right now, it's just gonna, even with a good filter, it's just gonna send rust all through the lines or clog up the fuel pump to the point where the car will be undrivable. So we need a new tank, we need a new fuel pump assembly, pretty much the whole new setup. Fuel pump assembly, the vapor O-ring, we're gonna need a new sending unit, pretty much everything to go along with a brand new tank. So fuel wise right now, we're on pause for that. But what I believe I can do is, I believe as long as I can push on a hose over the feed side over here and put on another hose right here for the return, I can bring those hoses out to probably like a bucket and put a fuel pump in a bucket, and we should be able to hear this thing start up like that. So fuel tank is a no-go for right now. We need to get the starter out, put another starter in, and then try to rig something up for fuel so we can hear this thing run. Alrighty guys, I've been working on this bad boy for quite a while. We got the fuel lines off, we got the starter changed. I had to wire up the starter in a different way. Pretty much the signal wire went the same place, but I have a starter that has its own starter solenoid. So from the starter solenoid itself, I had to run a wire down there to its own solenoid. Essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some fuel right in here. We have I believe that's a Bosch 255, and we're gonna cycle fuel through the fuel rail to try to get any junk that's in there out, and then we're gonna dump this out and put some more fuel in it and try to crank this thing up. The way that I have the fuel pump hooked up is just positive and negative, so it won't be hard to control that. Like I said, the fuel tank or the fuel system pretty much needs to be redone. which is very affordable. I looked on Amazon and it's like 232 bucks for a new tank, sending unit, pumps assembly, all the grommets. It's fairly cheap, so we just gotta wait for it. The starter is questionable at best. If it's not the starter that's the problem, it's probably the flywheel that's it's just making a growling noise. But I guess I have to change the clutch anyway, so I might as well go in there and take a look at it when I'm in there. But let me let you guys hear the starter, and then we're gonna put some fuel in the bucket and try to crank this thing up for the first time. I really was going to try to do this off camera, but I'm trying to keep you guys engaged in the channel as well, and I don't want to just, you know, fix a bunch of stuff and then show you guys the end result. This is how diagnosing old cars go. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So if we crank this thing up and she's knocking or she's making a lot of noise and stuff like that, sometimes that's how it goes as well. You know, you can't just give up once you hear bad things. You got to just keep pushing, keep moving, find the next fix, and deal with it as the problems keep appearing. But we know about the fuel system. We need to redo that. Now what we're really doing is I put the oil filter on, and I already cranked it a few times to try to get oil through the system, and I hear the lifters, you know, moving and doing what they need to do. We need to figure out if the injectors are firing, and the only way to find that out is send fuel to the rail and try to crank this thing up. Just put enough fuel in it to cycle the system and try to get any dirt out of the rail. Oh, that'll leak. I gotta fix that. Let's see if I can fix it. Can't start the bad boy up leaking. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, don't drop. I don't know if it's not returning to the tank, or at least not returning to the bucket. Yeah, she's not returning. I wonder if the return side of it is clogged, or if I have the hoses. No, it still should come back out through here. I don't have anything coming out through here. All right, well, at least I know fuel is in the rail. We can, let me tape this here because I could see that falling already. Well, at least we know fuel is in the rail, and we can attempt to start it now. Don't judge my ghetto rigging this bottle. I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't fall and light anything on fire. All right, let's try to crank this bad boy up, even though I'm very afraid. Here goes nothing. And nothing goes. Terminals. Alrighty. Let's try it again. didn't start. Let me see. I don't think anything came out of the fuel. Let me see if I'm an idiot. I might have the return and the flow wrong. Let me see if that's the case. Alrighty, so I am a complete idiot and I had the hoses mixed up, but you guys already know that I'm an idiot, so no surprise there, buddy. Now, when I put this on, it's flowing into the rail and it's coming out of the return. And looking pretty good, so I won't leave the fuel pump hooked up. I'm just gonna try and crank it once again and see what happens. Hopefully the injectors are firing. Cross our fingers, because Lord knows I could use a win right about now. And it doesn't look like I'm gonna get one. Alrighty, now we gotta figure out why it's not starting. Alright guys, so day 3 of working on the Fox body to get this thing started up, just so we can hear the motor. Surprisingly enough, we've already built oil pressure from cranking it so many times, so hopefully that means everything is good in the bottom end. You never really know. So we checked the fuel tank. It was completely shot. This thing was sitting up for 10 plus years, and it just rusted the tank because the tank wasn't full with fuel. It was like a quarter tank, so it rusted everything above that. So I gotta replace that entire fuel system, which is fairly cheap. It's 200 and something bucks for everything brand new. That's a tank, that's a pump, that's a sending unit. Everything's gonna be brand new, all the gaskets, everything. So can't beat that. This Fox is actually gonna end up being one of my dailies if the motor is good. So I don't want to cheap out on anything like that. So I had some fuel lines ran to the rail. We had fuel go into it. Everything was looking good. It just would not fire off. So what I'm assuming now is the injectors might be in the same condition that the fuel tank was in. So what we're going to do now, pull off that upper intake and get those injectors off and either get them cleaned up, spray some brake clean through them, and just fire them right on the table, see what their spray pattern looks like. And if it looks good, then we're gonna go ahead and throw them back in the car. If they don't, I don't think I have any 19-pound injectors that I can replace those with. I think I have some 21s. So I'll probably end up throwing some 21s in there just for the time being, just to hear it crank up, because it is gonna run a little rich with the 21-pound injectors in it. But that'll be better just to hear this thing crank up and see how it runs. So we need to get to taking the upper intake off and getting those injectors off. All right, so we got the upper intake off of the lower. Gasket still looks good, but I think I'm gonna lay down some silicone just to be sure that it seals properly. I need to try and get as much of this dirt out of this off of this lower intake as possible. All the connectors look good. The issue I found is that The rail looked like it just had old fuel sitting up in it, which is normal for a car that's set up for 10 years. So I'm going to take all the injectors off of it and try to flush the rail downwards, meaning get fuel out of each one of these injector holes. And then also I'm going to try to set up a test bench where I can fire these coils, not these coils, so I can fire these injectors individually and try to get some fuel pressure to them to see if they're spraying properly. Once I get them to spray properly, I'm going to put everything back on the car, close it up, and try to run this thing yet again. Hopefully we find some fault in the rail or in the injectors where we can rule out why the car wouldn't start. Alrighty, so let me give you guys the rundown on how I actually cleaned those injectors. I took brake cleaner and cleaned out the little screen and the bottom of it each time. Oh wow, I just realized that I'm missing an O-ring right here, which could possibly mean that was an air leak on the vehicle. I'm gonna go look for that O-ring in a minute. But I got them clean by running the fuel pump and tightening down the hose clamp right on top of these injectors. And then I created a nice little jumper for the injector to activate it, and all of them sprayed properly, but all of them had dirt in them. So, and it was right in the tops. So most likely when I tried to flush the fuel rail, I just pushed dirt right down on top of the injector. So I'm gonna put this thing back together and then we're gonna try to crank it up, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't start. Unless we have a spark plug issue, but I'll investigate that if this doesn't work. Alrighty guys, we have been running our mouths instead of running this engine for quite some time now, so it's time to actually try it and see what we get. Let me see now if I have any leaks on the fuel system. Nope. And she is flowing fuel in and out of the fuel. I mean, she's flowing fuel in and out of the fuel rail. Hopefully this is enough just to hear it start up. Yeah, she's flowing pretty good. All right, let's try this. Oh, let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. Woo! Oh my God. Let's freaking go. Let's go. There is nothing more satisfying than hearing something run that is not supposed to be running and that has not been running for a very long time, if you guys understand what I mean. This thing sounds absolutely healthy. Now it's time to get some paint work done, get us a new fuel cell in, or new fuel tank in for this thing. And I think the key switch needs to change, the electrical part. I'll probably change the whole thing because I notice it's a bit like if you flop it the wrong way, it'll just shut off. But this thing is certified ripper. All right, let's crank up this bad boy again. Uh-oh. idling properly. The only thing I gotta check is that voltage. Oil pressure looks pretty good. Let me see if I can get you guys in there to see everything. There we go. Oil pressure looks pretty good. Idle looks good. Gotta check on that voltage and we should be good. All right, guys, and there you freaking have it. We finally got the 1989 Mustang GT back to life. This thing needs a complete fuel system, so it needs a tank, it needs a new hanger assembly, meaning for the pump to lay on, it needs a sending unit, it needs pretty much everything that was in the back there because it's sat for over 10 years. But those stuff are fairly cheap. We need to get that fuel system in, try to take this thing for a drive. From the previous owner, he said that this thing had a clutch issue, meaning that when the car would warm up, it would stop being usable, meaning the clutch. So I might have to drop the box and change the clutch as well, which is fairly easy to do. So fuel system, might have to change the clutch. If I go in there to change the clutch, I'm gonna change the flywheel, clutch, pressure plate, pilot bearings. I'm gonna change everything that's in there. Probably gonna get a new clutch fork and release bearing. If you're gonna go in there, you need to change all the parts that are hard to get to once you've gone in there. So gonna do that. Probably gonna throw a new clutch cable at it as well, just to make sure that isn't the issue. But I could not be any happier with this car to bring something back to life that's been sitting for a very long time, and it still has very good oil pressure, and it sounds amazing. Like I said, there's a cam in the block on this thing. I can't wait to order the body parts for it. Like, I want to change the lights, I want to get this thing to paint right away. I really just want to make sure we can drive this thing as a daily, and I'm definitely going to get it to that point. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Always remember, don't drift without your dreams, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.